Emma felt the gaze before she even heard the footsteps. It wasn't paranoia, it wasn't insecurity. It was that invisible weight that cuts through your skin when someone decides you don't belong in that place. The store was gleaming. It smelled of old money and exclusivity. But suddenly everything felt narrower. Every display case reflected not just bags and jewelry, it also reflected the way she was being watched. The security guard began following her without bothering to hide it, first from a distance, then much too close. 20 minutes can seem like very little, until you feel every single second like a silent test. She walked slowly, touched the fabrics, took deep breaths. She tried to act normal. But how do you act normal when someone has already decided who you are before even knowing your name? The other customers didn't notice, or pretended not to notice. Heels echoed on the marble floor, low laughter crossed the air, black cards were swiped at the registers, and there in the middle of all that luxury, a black girl was carrying something far heavier than just a bag. She carried the certainty that any wrong move could turn into a spectacle. The security guard didn't blink. He analyzed every gesture, every pause, every time she opened her bag for a second. His hand hovered near the radio, as if waiting for permission to confirm what he already believed. And the cruelest part wasn't being followed, it was knowing exactly why. It wasn't about behavior. It was about appearance, about skin color, about a judgment made without evidence. And as time passed, something inside that store began to tighten. One mistake, one extra step, one wrong look. That was all it would take for everything to explode, because no one there imagined that inside that bag was something capable of flipping the script, silencing the entire store, and leaving even those who judged with their heads bowed. Her name didn't matter to the people watching her, but she had a story. She had woken up early that day, like almost every other day, with her mind full of responsibilities, and her body tired of constantly proving her worth. The bathroom mirror gave back an image she knew well. Firm posture, simple clothes, silent dignity. She took a deep breath before leaving, like someone preparing for a world that doesn't always forgive. Entering that store wasn't a whim. It was a small, almost symbolic gesture, a space where she rarely felt invited. Even so, she decided to go in. Not to challenge anyone, not to prove anything, just to exist there, like any other person. But from the very first step, the air felt different, cold, judging, as if every wall had eyes. She pretended to be calm, but inside her heart was keeping time. She had lived this before, in other places, other situations. The look that scans from feet to head, the pause that lasts too long, the suspicion that doesn't explain itself. She knew exactly how this story usually ends, and maybe that's why every movement was calculated, every gesture thought through twice. As she walked between the shelves, old memories came without permission. Situations where she was treated as an exception, as a risk, as someone who needed to be watched. She swallowed hard. She didn't want to cause a scene. She didn't want to be the difficult girl. She just wanted to finish what she came to do and leave whole, without another invisible wound to carry. But the environment wasn't helping. The security guard was still there, too present to be a coincidence. And even without a word, the message was clear. Something was being decided in that silence, something she didn't control. And all the while, the bag hung on her arm. Discreet, closed, ordinary to the wrong eyes, but carrying a weight no one in that store was prepared to face. The first comment came disguised as politeness. "May I help you?" the saleswoman said, with a smile too rehearsed to be genuine. The girl replied that she was just looking. The saleswoman nodded but didn't walk away. She pretended to organize hangers, fiddle with tags, inspect display cases that were already flawless. It wasn't help, it was surveillance. The security guard changed position. Now he was clearly behind her. He no longer pretended interest in anything else. Every time she stopped, he stopped. When she moved forward, he moved forward. The sound of his footsteps seemed louder than anything else in the store. Don't do anything wrong, she thought. Don't give them a reason. Thoughts no one should have while choosing a bag. She picked up an item from the shelf and felt the stare burning into her back. Her body reacted before her mind. Shoulders tense, breathing short. That old feeling returned. The feeling of being measured, weighed, judged, not for what she was doing, but for who she was. They've already decided, she realized. They're just waiting to confirm it. A couple passed by her without being watched. Another customer opened a large backpack, took something out, put it back. No stare, no shadow behind them. She noticed. She always notices. And that was when something broke inside her, not in the form of a scream, but in silence. A tired silence, an old silence, an inherited silence. The security guard touched the radio clipped to his shoulder. He didn't say anything, he just touched it. She felt her stomach drop. Is it now? Time slowed down. The air grew heavy. The luxury lost its shine. And for a second, she thought about leaving, dropping everything, walking out before it turned into another badly told story about her. But she didn't leave. She stayed there, motionless for a few seconds, gripping the bag tighter. Inside it there was no fear. There was decision. A silent, mature decision built over years of swallowed injustices. And without anyone noticing, the tension in the store was already palpable. Something was about to happen, something no one there expected, and that would completely change the course of that judgment. The security guard finally took the step everyone feels before they even see it. He came too close, invaded her space. His voice came out low, controlled, trained to sound professional. "Miss, I need you to come with me for a moment." The store went quiet without realizing it. Conversations died down. A cashier froze mid-motion. Something was about to be decided there, and it wasn't just about her. She raised her eyes slowly. There was no panic, no surprise, just a deep exhaustion, and something harder to define. Resolve. "Why?" she asked. The security guard hesitated. He didn't have a real answer. Just suspicion, just habit, just an old judgment, repeated too many times to still be questioned. He pointed to the bag. "We need to check it." That was the moment everyone started paying attention. Heads turned, curious looks appeared. Some had already chosen a side, and it wasn't hers. She took a deep breath. A second too long. And then, with calm movements, she opened the bag. What appeared there was not an ordinary object. It wasn't something small. It wasn't something easily explained. The security guard's eyes changed first. Then his face drained of color. He took half a step back as if struck by something invisible. A manager rushed over. A customer whispered an almost inaudible, "My God!" The store, once full of confidence, was now filled with a heavy, embarrassed silence. Inside the bag was the truth no one there had imagined considering. Something that proved, without words, who she really was. Something that made the size of the mistake committed over the last 20 minutes painfully clear. There was no more doubt, no more excuse. Just shame, spread across the expensive marble floor. The security guard tried to speak. His voice failed. The manager began apologizing before even understanding how to fix it, but it was already too late. Because in that moment, it wasn't just her who was exposed, it was the prejudice. It was the automatic judgment. It was the dangerous certainty that appearance defines intent. And as the customers watched, stunned, realizing they had been silent accomplices, she closed the bag calmly. The sound of the zipper echoed louder than any words. There was no shouting, no scene, just the brutal collapse of false superiority in front of someone who should never have been followed. Inside the bag was an official badge from the Department of Justice. Next to it, a folder with stamped documents, detailed notes, and an administrative audit warrant. She wasn't just any customer. She was a federal attorney responsible for investigating racial discrimination in high-end commercial establishments. That visit wasn't about luxury. It was about duty. The manager read her name twice, as if the first time wasn't enough to undo the mistake. His hands began to shake. The security guard swallowed hard. Everything built in those 20 minutes, suspicion, surveillance, judgment, collapsed in seconds. There was no going back. No pretending nothing had happened. She said little. She didn't need to raise her voice. She didn't need to accuse anyone. Everything that happened here was observed, recorded, and will be included in the report, she said calmly. Each word landed like a weight. It wasn't a threat. It was a fact. The store that prided itself on exclusivity now faced something far more expensive: consequences. The customers avoided eye contact. Some looked away, others showed an almost physical discomfort. Because in that instant, Many realized they weren't just spectators. They were part of the silence, part of the normalization, part of the problem. The luxury lost its shine. The embarrassment remained. She closed the bag, thanked them coldly, and walked to the exit. No one tried to stop her. No one dared say anything more. Outside, she took a deep breath. Not from relief, from exhaustion. That victory brought no joy. It brought the painful confirmation of something she already knew. It still takes far too much proof to be treated as equal. That night, the report was finalized. Days later, the store would face fines, investigations, and public apologies. But none of that would erase the 20 minutes of silent humiliation. She was never the same after that day. But by walking through that door, she reclaimed something no one there had the right to take, the dignity of existing without being suspected. And you? Have you ever been followed, judged, or silenced without doing anything wrong? If this story touched you, like, comment, and subscribe. Here we tell stories that hurt because they're real, and heal because they need to be heard.